Coming up on today's Airborne, Eurocopter feels the need for speed. TIGHAR denies finding Amelia Earhart's plane. And Boeing sees demand for 35,000 new aircraft. Welcome to Airborne on Aero-TV. I'm Ashley Hale. As we were wrapping up today's episode of Airborne, our newsroom got a late-breaking story. Jim Campbell is here to report.
Thanks, Ashley. Hi, folks. I'm sorry to say we've got some breaking news, and it's of a very disappointing nature. EAA has confirmed to ANN and to others that they have, quote, no option, unquote, but to give in to FAA's blackmail. With barely a month's notice of a demand for fees that neared $500,000, EAA has found that they basically have no choice but to pay what will apparently be some $447,000 in additional fees to the FAA for air traffic control and other coverage of the event, or, well, either the event doesn't go on or permanent damage is done to the organization as well. It's really a tough situation. EAA Chairman Jack Pelton adds that, quote, let me be clear, we have consistently regarded the FAA's move as holding AirVenture and GA hostage this year. There was considerable detailed thought given over the past month to every option and possible scenario. Ultimately, AirVenture's importance to the entire general aviation economy and community, as well as to EAA's year-round programs, was the overriding factor in our response. AirVenture will go on, and our attendees deserve nothing less than the best air safety and services we can provide. Pelton adds that, quote, as far as we're concerned, this is not over. We entered into this agreement only because there was no other realistic choice to preserve aviation's largest annual gathering. We also look forward to FAA's leadership coming to Oshkosh this year to personally explain their policy to the nation's aviators. As we understand it, EAA will be paying two payments, one prior to the start of AirVenture and one thereafter. The total will be $447,000. At this point, this will comprise some 87 controllers and support staffers. We do not know if FAA Administrator Michael Huerta will show up this year, but if he does, he's got some splaining to do. We'll be updating this story over the next few days. There's obviously a lot to be said. There is a strong push among those in Congress and in the Senate to look carefully at what FAA has done here, to see if first, if it's legal, and two, what the real motivations are behind this. Because if this isn't a power grab and an attempt to push user fees above and beyond anything we've seen before, we don't know what is. For the Aero-News Network, Airborne and Aero-TV, I'm Jim Campbell, and God willing, we'll all see you at Oshkosh.
The Eurocopter X3 hybrid helicopter made history recently by attaining speed milestones of 255 knots in level flight and 263 knots during a descent. With these two successes, the X3 surpasses the unofficial speed record for a helicopter. Eurocopter achieved the historic 255-knot speed milestone, with the X3 flying at an altitude of around 10,000 feet during a 40-minute test flight over southern France on June 7th, while the descent speed came a few days earlier. It marks the latest in a growing list of achievements for the X3, which is Eurocopter's technology demonstrator for an advanced, cost-effective vertical takeoff and landing transportation system that offers the speed of a turboprop-powered aircraft and the full flight capabilities of a helicopter. The X3 was developed in a rapid-paced Eurocopter program that utilized one of the company's Dolphin helicopters as the airframe and utilizes a pair of RTM 322 turboshaft engines to power a 5-blade main rotor system, with 2 propellers installed on short-span fixed wings. With these latest flight milestones, the X3 demonstrator has accumulated a combined total of more than 140 hours aloft since making its maiden takeoff in September of 2010. TIGHAR, the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, is denying charges brought in a lawsuit that they have found Amelia Earhart's airplane, but continue to raise funds under thereby false pretenses. The suit was brought by Timothy Mellon, the son of the late philanthropist Paul Mellon, in federal court in Wyoming last week. He says TIGHAR solicited $1 million from him last year to search for Amelia Earhart's Lockheed Electra, but did not tell him that they had found the airplane a year earlier. TIGHAR said through its attorney Bill Carter that if they had found the airplane, they would have alerted the media, not kept it a secret. TIGHAR Executive Director Rick Gillespie called the lawsuit frivolous. Quote, "Our group has been totally open with any discovery," he told Fox News. By Gillespie's calculations, the latest effort to find the plane cost TIGHAR some $350,000. Though no one has said so, the timing of the lawsuit is undoubtedly tied to the recent revelation of an until recently unseen side scan sonar image showing what TIGHAR said could be what may be left of Earhart's Lockheed Electra. That image was captured on TIGHAR's last expedition to the island of Nikumaroro, where they believe Earhart and navigator Fred Noonan landed and lived out their final days. Boeing projects a demand for more than 35,000 new airplanes over the next 20 years, valued at $4.8 trillion. The company released its annual current market outlook this week in Paris, forecasting the world fleet to double over the next 2 decades. Both passenger traffic and cargo traffic are expected to grow 5% annually. The single-aisle market, served by Boeing's next-generation 737 and the future 737 MAX, is the main driver of the forecast and continues to show strength thanks to the growth of low-cost carriers and airlines from emerging markets. Wide-bodies such as Boeing's 747-8, 777, and 787 Dreamliner also make up a large part of the forecast. 8,590 new airplanes will be needed in this segment, fueled in part by airlines replacing their older fleet with new, more fuel-efficient airplanes. California may be earning the title of the NIMBY state. A group of attention-seeking California lawmakers held a public hearing in Griffith Park in the Los Angeles area to demand that the FAA establish restrictive helicopter corridors over the city to deal with what they say is excessive noise from the aircraft. Los Angeles County Supervisor Zev Yaroslavsky, whose aviation credentials are unknown, says that he sees no reasons that helicopters should be flying at 300 to 400 feet over any part of the county. He said that the FAA needs regulations that have some teeth. The FAA issued a report at the end of May that said helicopter companies should be self-regulating. And again, FAA officials who attended this meeting said that a blanket approach would not be as effective as working with individual neighborhoods to meet their specific needs, but those guidelines would be voluntary. The homeowners who attended the meeting, however, sounded the same theme as they had in previous public forums, saying that the aircraft fly low enough to drown out conversations and in some instances set off car alarms. The alleged catalyst for the complaints have been flights conducted by sightseeing tours over the homes of celebrities, the Hollywood sign, and other landmarks. Representative Adam Schiff arranged the meeting, which was attended by between 150 to 200 people. Canadian astronaut and music video superstar Chris Hadfield has announced that he's making good on a 30-year-old promise to his wife. He's retiring from the space race and moving back to Canada. Hadfield recently returned to Earth after a 5-month stint that included time as the first Canadian commander of the International Space Station. It was his 3rd journey into space. Previously, he was the only Canadian to visit the Russian space station Mir in 1995, and the first Canadian to perform a spacewalk when he installed Canadarm2 on the ISS in 2001. While commanding the ISS, he also made history by recording the first music video in space, a rendition of David Bowie's Space Oddity. Yes, folks, Chris Hadfield, aka Major Tom, is the real McCoy. His retirement is effective July 3rd. You're watching Airborne, more in a moment.
Since its inception, Redbird Flight Simulations has been dedicated to developing new training technologies and processes in an ongoing effort to make aviation safer, more affordable, and more accessible. Consider Redbird's flagship flight training device, the FMX, a superior quality, full-motion, feature-rich advanced aviation training device priced with real-world flight training organizations in mind. With standard features that are anything but standard, such as wraparound visuals, a fully enclosed cockpit, quick change configurations, scenario-based training compatibility, and of course, an electric motion platform, the FMX serves up a level of realism that is simply unavailable in other training devices on the market. For more information on Redbird flight simulations, the Redbird FMX, and Redbird's entire line of flight training devices, visit www.redbirdflightsimulations.com.
Welcome back. If you'd like to suggest a story for Airborne, Aero-TV, our website, or our podcast, drop us an email to news-by@aero-news.net. The Royal Air Force Museum has successfully lifted a German Dornier Do-17 bomber from an area of the ocean bottom known as Goodwin Sands off the coast of England. According to the museum, it is the only example of the airplane known to have survived the war in any condition. The aircraft will be transported aboard a support barge directly to Ramsgate Harbor, where it will be dismantled for travel to the museum's Conservation Centre at Cosford, UK. Once there, the preservation process involves a months-long or even years-long lemon juice shower, an odd solution devised by the Imperial College's Department of Material Science that strips away the channel's chemicals and prevents exposure to oxygen. The recovery and conservation of the Dornier, together with next year's exciting new exhibition, The Great War in the Air, are the first steps in transforming the Royal Air Force Museum as part of the national and international program marking the centenary of the Royal Air Force in 2018. Sometimes you gotta spend money to save money, as the U.S. government is doing just that. In an agreement that is estimated to save the U.S. government more than $800 million, the Army and Boeing have signed a $4 billion multi-year contract for 177 CH-47F Chinook helicopters, with the Army holding options that could increase its total buy to 215 aircraft. Deliveries from the agreement, which is a cost-effective alternative to annually contracting for the aircraft, will begin in 2015. Colonel Robert Berry, U.S. Army Project Manager for Cargo Helicopters, said of the deal, quote, "This multi-year contract provides unprecedented savings for the U.S. Army and American taxpayers. But the most important benefit is the continued support these aircraft will provide to soldiers in the field and civilians in distress," end quote. The tandem-rotor Chinook is the backbone of combat, logistics, and humanitarian operations for the U.S. Army and 18 other operators around the world. A towering monument to the Wright brothers and the birthplace of the aviation industry moved a step closer to reality recently with the completion of a wind tunnel test on a model of the Wright Flyer. The plans are to erect a 250-foot tall tower with a replica of the Wright Flyer perched atop it. The monument would be located at the intersection of I-70 and I-75 near Dayton, Ohio, and would be visible for miles. Wind tunnel test conducted at Ohio State University using a model with a mere 4-foot wingspan instead of the 144-foot wingspan of the planned stainless steel replica aircraft proved the monument could withstand winds of up to 200 miles per hour. In other words, an F5 tornado. The Wright Image Group, a nonprofit group that plans to build the monument, has already raised over $1 million, but would need another $11 million to complete the project. Wind tunnel tests with a larger model are next, and if successful, the group could then begin construction if funding permits. Well, that's our program for June 14th. Remember, you can get comprehensive, real-time, 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. And please join us again next Tuesday for another edition of Airborne. I'm Ashley Hale. Thanks for watching.